Got a little distracted there. I made some eggs. I was hungry. But anyways, we're back to it. 5 egg omelet and some cheese, and we're gonna read the rest of this fucking Occupy manifest. I was checking the last video, to see where I left off, and it was like, you know what? I really went off on Barack Obama, but it's okay. We're gonna look at these videos and see what is maybe irrational, exuberant, and it all comes from somewhere. Emotions have but justify themselves. There's a reason why we all say the shit we say, even when it's off base. It comes from somewhere, and that helps you empathize with other people and also empathize with yourself. Something I said earlier this year. Before you listen to other people, you have to be able to listen to yourself. Listen to your own thoughts. Look in the mirror. Otherwise, then what, you're just being manipulated by others. We're all trying to influence each other. And before you give someone else a voice, make sure you understand what your voice is. And make sure you have peace with yourself. A lot of us could listen better to others. A lot of us also could probably calm down, slow down, and pay attention to the thoughts in our head. So in that spirit, I will continue to record myself going off. But yeah, no. I looked at those last couple minutes. I was like, man, I had a couple minutes and I was filling up time. And I read about, I guess I'm a little bit more subdued. While I was eating, I was reading about like Kanye West and Drake are having a feud now again, or they were. I know the Pusha T shit, but then what's going on? And Drake just, his character-wise, people I talk to, people are like, Drake's character just doesn't seem right just from the outside. We don't know this guy, but as much as you can know a celebrity, ever since he came up, just seemed like a shady human being. But it has to do with this year. This year I wrote a rap about him and some other stuff. Started to explore those feelings. Why do I feel this way? What is it that's bugging me? And then I found him in brown face, is what I would call it, acting like he was a Puerto Rican or Dominican or whatever, but he was acting like he's Latino. He'd call himself the Coke Boys, and I was like, oh, that's why I don't like this piece of shit, because he's glorifying the shit that actually like is destroying communities. I never really like that. Like, yeah, speak about the stories that you lived. Don't just monetize. That's someone who is. Look, I just talked about how I went off on Obama, and now I'm gonna go off on Drake. But as someone who just doesn't understand the lessons or the rules of life, it's like you can speak on anything that you know, and no one can tell you otherwise. It's what you lived. But now when you try to monetize other people's stories, and you do so in an insensitive manner, calling yourself the Coke Boys and dressing up like you're Latino over there in Miami, because it's funny because you saw a Scarface movie. That's people's lives. That's like real shit. That's not your shit. You don't know anything about that. You know, you got like one OG behind you who's keeping you alive. That's not, the world is complicated. There's a lot of fucking people you're probably pissing off by being disrespectful. You're just being fucking foolish. Why are you? Because you're insensitive. That's what people tell me all my life growing up. Too sensitive. But I think that kind of keeps me. I'm sensitive, so I stay humble. I try to, while I walk through certain stuff, because I respect the order of nature. And there's a peace to nature, but it comes from there being sharks and being barracudas and being little fish and I'm just snorkeling through all this shit. But I look at the way that a guy like Drake lives his life. It's like it's insensitive to a fault. He's tripping wires and he's insulting people, and he's how he was in blackface. I was insensitive to black culture, and then he's like, no, I'm black. I could do that. Okay, I'm commenting on my own narrative. Okay, that's that get out of jail free card. All right, that's what you lived. You're mixed. I'm mixed. I understand that. We're in between. We speak on shit. I speak on Mexican shit and other shit and white shit. But like when you walk further and further away from what you've actually lived, now you're just speaking on shit just to be a clown or just to make money. Now that's like you're profiting from the misery of others. That's insensitive. Now he seems like an asshole. I don't like the guy. But whatever. That's my opinion. I run across Drake fans. I'm like, yeah, but do you like him as a person? He's kind of an asshole, isn't he? This girl, I'd buy tacos over at 13 Carmine, number 13, New York, 10014. My apartment, and then downstairs there's a Dos Toros. You live in a nice part of Manhattan, and there's everything within a block or two. You never have to leave a couple blocks. You're the center of the world. Celebrities, the party, the parades, they all come to your neighborhood. Comedy Cellar across the street, Drunken Stumble from the Comedy Cellar home. I always tell people, I'm like, I caught Dave Chappelle on a Monday night just because I was like, I know he's in town, and I know this is a mecca for comedy. He's going to stop by here one day this week. And it was Monday, and he had SNL that weekend. So I was like, the motherfuckers are going to come by on a Monday night, last show. Sure enough, I was with my girl. We were eating a burger at 11. I was like, let's go hit the Comedy Cellar. And then he walks in, the last person, just to fucking rant and vent his frustrations. Didn't really entertain us, but it's like, it's a celebrity. We're like, oh my gosh, Dave Chappelle. And he just sat there smoking, drinking, fucking just kind of soaking up the vibe like the rest of us. That's all. I don't even think he did a couple jokes that he did later on SNL. He tried some shit out. I'm just soaking up the vibe. Just a place to be, just like us. It's a Monday night. These are just people. That's why I talk about like Drake, Kanye, I guess Barack Obama, I brought it up. Just people. My opinions of people and how they're living compared to how I'm living. Hopefully they're being introspective like I'm being introspective. We can all change positions quickly in this life. And then the life can be taken from us quickly also. So we appreciate it. And we live and walk and act humbly. And I think that's the way to keep the peace. And so like this bravado and hip-hop and other shit, there's dignity in representing yourself and puffing out your chest. I like how I put that. The narratives you've lived, no one can take that away from you. This is my story. People are like, there's too much violence and gang shit in hip-hop. Well, like, the fucking, like, when I, like, listen to The Game, it's like, no, that dude fucking, he is who he is. And that's why people respect it. It's whatever is in the music. If it is who the person is, I thought, dude, he's putting fucking sexy pictures on Instagram saying, who wants this? Like, that dude is just trying to fucking fight his way through life. That's the way to live. I like it. I like people like that. That's cool. Now, what is Drake's philosophy? Is he who he says he is? What does he say he is? And that's what Pusha, his mastermind in that, which I really enjoyed watching that whole shit go down. He says that's how he constructed his diss track. He's like, who is this dude? This dude doesn't even know who he is. That's the most important thing in life that's why I'm taking this whole year off, to figure out who I am. Remember who I am. And luckily I have all these little things that I've collected over my life to remind me. And that's a strength. That's your feet under you. It's knowing who you are. And then everything else is just details. Everything else is just exploring how who I am interacts with who you are. If you don't know who you are, then you don't know if you're being manipulated. You don't know if you're being used. You don't know if you're being reactionary. You don't know if you're being logical or rational. You don't know if it's like you don't know if you're on drugs or if you're not on drugs. It's like you don't know if money is a drug. Women can be a drug. The women I've been in are far more potent than any of the drugs I've been in me. Women will, because they last longer, a heartbreak hurts a lot more than any come down. When I was first heartbroken over Addie, I just lay in my room and listen to music and fucking just... People commit suicide off of love. Fucking love is a real shit. Random breakdown, crying, like... drugs are just like a temporary, I'm just gonna fuck with my brain. Love will fuck with your life. Money, having it and then losing it. That's what Kanye's problem is right now. That lifestyle is corrupting him. As would be my opinion, as one man to another man. Living what I've lived. And walking a little bit away from money for the time being, for this last half of the year. Since August, I've lived based off of the charity and fucking grace of my friends and family. I got a little wild. I went to bore a little bit. My tusk came out, my hair bristled, but when you're stealing food out of your friend's fucking fridge and not telling them, they would give it to you, but you're stealing it because you're ravenous and you're getting a little wild. I was getting a little bit of a wild man. I'm now, this whole video process, I felt like when I started it, I was re-entering civilization, and now I feel like kind of, well, we'll see. I think I'm in the mental state of all the documents I go through. So right now I'm at the end of Occupy Wall Street. By the end of this, I'll be at the end of real estate in the beginning of this year. And then all I have to do is review this year. And I will have caught up my life. and my narrative to the present, so I can look ahead with a unitary focus. I think it's going to be a competitive advantage as I try to do what I'm going to try to do. How much of that will go through celebrity and how much won't, I don't know. How much, it doesn't matter. But like this year was like, all right, whatever I'm feeling, try to talk out. So I was feeling something towards Drake, so I talked it out in a rhyme. And then I did one about Kanye because I was feeling something towards him. And then I did one about my own experiences because I was like, well, where is this all coming from? The shit that I've lived. And I started counting the bodies and the people and the stories and just shit that you don't think is a big deal until you actually put it down. You're like, oh, it's not that it's a big deal, but it's my story. It's where I derive my values and my lessons in life. And you get your life threatened and you're like, I'm just going to start walking around with a knife, I guess. But you make your peace. You're just like, well, if this happens and that happens and those decisions are made, and I'm just going to continue living my life. It's like a lot of people live like that. A lot of people in poor neighborhoods live like that. You're just like, well, you prepare for the worst, you hope for the best. But you got this, like, that's like the war zone. It's just like, yeah. Fucking some people in poor neighborhoods train like it's a war zone. And when you walk out that day, you're just like, well, if there's A, B, or C that happens, this is going to be my response. Because your percentages are higher, that shit's going to happen. But let's talk about Occupy Wall Street. Over the next 3 to 4 years, our goal is to bring 5,000 change agents through the Occupy Manifest program. The intended impact is to empower 5,000 individuals to work alongside a network and community of other powerful change agents from Occupy, as they each bring a project aligned with their vision of the world into actual lived reality. During the course of the program, you will commit to working on a breakthrough initiative project designed to shift a major aspect of the world in which we live. What the fuck are these people saying? A breakthrough happens when one achieves something that was previously seen as impossible for the community one serves. Through using your breakthrough initiative project as a learning laboratory to apply what is taught through Occupy Manifest, you will take significant steps to manifest your vision for the world that was previously seen as impossible. If someone's promising you the impossible, that's probably a snow job. Once you decide to join the Occupy Manifest, you must commit to the entire course of the program. Together with the rest of your group, you will engage in three-day workshops. The workshops will combine seminars, concrete initiatives, group management, and personal coaching to foster a culture of trust, cooperation, communication, and results. The 3 workshops will be spaced apart by a minimum of 2 months, during which time you'll be working on your breakthrough initiative projects. During the intercession periods, the entire group will also be brought back together for continued community building and learning through regular conference calls. The following represents a breakdown of a program that each cohort will commit to from start to finish. And then they have, this is fucking corporate bullshit. Bingo, we have an ideogram of words and objects, a workflow, if you will. Pre-workshop goes to the select breakthrough initiative, and then the workshops are session 1, session 2, and session 3, in between which you have breakthrough initiatives. And then post-workshop, you have project results and documentation, ongoing alumni events, and new projects. The first group to embark on the Occupy Manifest program will begin in February and end in July. The entire time you are with the program, you will be committed to working on your breakthrough initiative project, attending all 3 workshops, and participating in conference calls. A conference call schedule is still to be determined, but likely be twice per month. Dates of the first group of Occupy Manifest are as follows. Workshop number 1, February 3rd to 6th, 2012, near San Francisco. Workshop number 2, March 30th through April 2nd, 2012, near New York City. Workshop number 3, July 20th to 23rd, 2012, near New York City. Workshop number 1, 3 days. Broad topics covered in the first 3-day workshop will be as follows: knowing the self, my identities. My identities, okay. So my theory, let's take a break, is that we already know that the fusion centers allowed corporations to tap into federal resources in order to monitor and disrupt the movement. They coordinated the raids on November 15th. They possibly had targeted assassinations on the table as options to put down the Occupy protest. The banks had their own private intelligence and security, and then they were also sharing the security state apparatus of the Barack Obama administration, sadly. They were involved, as many people loved him. He had a direct hand in the suppression of the Occupy Wall Street movement, despite, I'm sure, many layers of plausible deniability, and despite his main narrator-in-chief, Ben Rhodes, not even mentioning us in the book over the 8 years of the administration. This was a large... I read his book, like, right when they were talking about the Tahrir Square and all the protests and the massacres and other fucking wringing their hands, what can they do as the Arab Spring went over? I was like, well, any minute now they're going to talk about Occupy Wall Street. Any minute now he's going to bring up the largest domestic spontaneous protest movement ever to happen on U.S. soil. I say the largest spontaneous. Like, we weren't... That's the crazy thing about Occupy Wall Street. It wasn't led by any... the only thing that was ideological was that we were using anarchist tactics, proven, and that's why I read the anarchist ideology. It actually is a political theory with verifiable dogma and tactics and goals, strategies, ideals. It's as valid a political theory as any others. It actually is important to understand anarchism. Apparently, from what I'm reading, I'm like, oh shit, this makes sense now. Why we deprive this in our narrative? Because we're not constructing a narrative to explain the world, more to obscure the world and benefit power structures. But if you go to anarchism and where it broke from communism, they're both socialist. And they also broke from the social democrats. So a lot of times when I'm reading the news, I don't understand why all of Europe is social democrats. And it's like, when did Europe just decide that socialism was cool? And then to combine that with democracy, it happened when basically the utopians, it was a reaction from my reading of history, and I have to get more sources on this, to the Industrial Revolution. We earned the 8-hour work week, no child labor, all that stuff. And we earned that out of a reaction against the rabid capitalists who just... Power will concentrate, apparently, in human societies, whether the macro society or the smaller versions like Occupy Wall Street. And when the power concentrates and you have rampant injustice and crimes against humanity, children working and shit like that, fucking shirt tail factory fire in New York where they fucking didn't have fire escapes or a protocol, and you have a whole fucking factory go up and like hundreds of women die. All those guys went to jail. When is that bad? They actually go to jail. But that's what leads to better labor laws. But it happens also because there's a reaction. So the reaction to the greedy industrialists who are concentrating power and wealth during the Industrial Revolution, which technology plays a part too, I guess. We have a technological advance. We have an elite which starts to control the benefits of that technology. And then you have a reaction ideologically is the anarchist, the socialists. They were saying, well, maybe we should hold some of the means of production or all of the means of production in the commons for society as a whole. And now we have socialism. Capitalism saying that capital has a right to do whatever it wants and to accumulate and centralize as much as it wants. Although the prophets of capitalism never believed that it should just do whatever it wants. They always thought that you should protect civil society and the commons. So if you read like Adam Smith and the foundational texts of capitalism. Well, you'd also have to read Marx, because Marx, that's why I have to get to Marx eventually, because apparently he introduced some concepts to capitalism that you can't do without, as far as ways to, I guess, quantify or conceptualize labor and its relation to capitalism, or relation to capital. This is all interesting stuff. I have notes on this stuff. I just don't have a framework in which to put my notes. But working, I'll get ideas about economics and labor and capital. I just don't have a background, and so maybe I'm reinventing the wheel, but maybe there's some insights there. It's all fascinating stuff. But so socialism saying that we should keep the means of production and ownership of in the society, and then anarchism splits from communism, where communism's like, all right, yeah, let's just have a dictatorship of the worker, and then eventually we'll have our utopia. And anarchism's like, wait. Concentration of power is always corrupting. If that dictatorship of the workers will just become the same fucking thing you're fighting against. The communists were like, no, that's not going to happen. And then they played that out over a couple countries, and apparently that is what tends to happen. Although you also never really have socialism, the ownership of capital and society belonging just in the commons for the good of all. We've never had that play out because there's always interference from without. So why are the capitalists so insecure that they won't allow socialism to just play out on its own? They openly say that they don't want the threat of a good example, because their idea, the current way that the world is structured, apparently is so inefficient that you can easily build an alternative system which would run better. And I guess that's the biggest danger to it, is that if you just show, I guess that's going to be the crystal ball, is like, how far will they go to actually squash an alternative structure, which shows you that, because we could even do it, like, theoretically, we could do it with simulations and stuff. The way that the world is currently being mismanaged is like patently, blatantly, openly, the world's openly being mismanaged. But so all of these ideas and all these thoughts are important. Shit, I had a point I was going to tie back to this. I was taking a break to say, oh yeah, identity. So my idea is that, power is corrupting is the basic principle. Anarchists are those guys who are like, the current political theories that we're dealing with in the 21st century seem to have been born from the Industrial Revolution and then the reaction to that of the 19th century, which is the 1800s. As we're experiencing another technological shift, like the Industrial Revolution, it's happening faster. That's the trend of technology, is an exponential curve. Stuff happens faster and more closer together on the timeline. We're going to have another enclosure of the commons like we did back then, another gathering of the surplus that this technology produces into elite hands, which we've had, the Googles and the Amazons, and that's what's happening, is these people are the robber barons of the current decade. And then there's going to be another reaction ideologically, but it might come after there's a lot of injustice first, and then people by necessity will say, well, this is inhuman. But I predict that that's like open source ethics underpins most of the technology, and it better explains it. Just like Kropotkin back then stated that they were using the social Darwinism to explain and justify their greed. And he was like, no. There is a competition in nature. For the most part, though, it's cooperative. Otherwise, it wouldn't function. And that's what his book, Mutual Aid. So I guess as I read more about anarchism and I do these videos, I'm thinking there needs to be like a mutual aid book, but about open source and how that underpins the ethics of the internet and the internet age. And then now you have the ideological weight to fight back against the new social Darwinists, which if you look at how the current technocracy, the current reapers of the benefits of the technological wave of the 21st century, they justify themselves a lot of ways that the old robber barons did. Dog eat dog, hierarchies. Our good friend Jordy Peter and his fucking lobster hierarchies. Nature's more cooperative than competitive. Nature, for all its violence, is not just willingly violent. You avoid fights. That's why you have so much posturing and other stuff. Because fights could harm you to the point that you can't feed yourself. There has to be a very high threshold. That's what I feel like barbaric when I try to be more animalistic and other stuff. This is what I look at and what I learn. Actual animals and how they act. They don't just go around fucking with people. You're humble and you posture and this and that. You don't, because you know that the fucking costs of total war are too much. Willingly, there's not really sociopathic animals in there. There's a balance in nature and natural expression, which even when it involves violence. So what I was thinking was in Occupy Wall Street, we were being attacked on many fronts. Obviously, that's where I was going with this. I want to tie back into this somehow. I don't think I'm going to be able to, but this is the last. This is like the fourth hour video. So the later videos I got a little tired, but we I suspect that Black Lives Matters movement came out of this because those guys came to New York, and I recognize a lot of the same faces of people in Occupy Wall Street. How they mention identities. I feel like stuff like this, either these guys were trying to make money off of us by trying to suck out the fucking activist energy, but this seems like if we know that the corporations were working with the federal government to get rid of our movement, they're not stupid. That's why I always respect Goldman Sachs people. They're fucking the smartest people in the room usually. They're the greedy fucking nerd. And what's his name? We have to remember that the guy behind Trump was a Goldman Sachs guy. Um, yeah, I never had, and this is just personal experience too. I had like maybe 5 clients, Goldman Sachs guys. They never paid me. They always sucked as much information and expertise out of me because I knew my shit and I was good at it. And then they would either like go back to the apartment that I showed them, but then cut me out of the deal, or they would ghost me. But either way, it would. And I got very good towards the end of being very clear to people. If we're gonna work with each other, I'm gonna find you an apartment. I'm gonna collect a fee. I try not to waste my time. So like, if you want just advice, I'll give you advice, but I can't afford to spend my time in person with you. But the Goldman Sachs is the type of person who's like, yeah, no, I'm gonna pay you. It's the person who's looking for something for free, and they're the best at lying to your face while keeping a straight face. Some people believe that is a skill set, but if you practice it often in your social dealings, then you become that person. Like, I love playing poker. I love shit where and that might save your life someday, but if you build, that's not how you build a business. That's not how you build relationships. And people might be like, well, I'm not trying to build a business. I'm just trying to take advantage of the one you've built. Yeah, but you bring dishonor on yourself and your company. That's why I say Goldman Sachs as an institution attracts those types of people. I had teachers, social workers, really sweet people doing really decent jobs, and they were always very sweet. And when we said something and we looked each other in the eyes and we shook our hands, everything. I never fucking really had receipts to back up the fee agreement. People just came at the lease signing with a check because I try to work with people with integrity. Life is too complicated when you're always trying to screw the next guy over for like this or that. Well, most brokers operate that way, dog eat dog. But from my folks growing up, I knew that there was another model out there. That people come in to pay insurance premiums at my parents' office, and then we sit down, we have lunch, we talk about life. They were Anyway, so these corporate douchebags are trying to squash our movement. They're willing to do it violently. I have to look at those documents in the investigative report to make sure that I'm not talking out my ass. So I wouldn't put past him to this is Kobe and Michael, some fucking dudes, put him out there to suck out the fucking leaders of our movement and then cultivate them in order to, basically it's like death by a million cuts. No, not that. There's something else. There's probably a strategy in history you can pull out of here. But you go in, you find the leaders among them, and then you cultivate them and group them. And over many years, this is a multi-year project. And within a year or two of the dissolution of Occupy Wall Street, we have Black Lives Matters now and these other movements based around identities. And that's what set me off when I saw identity here. Because in Occupy Wall Street, we had a movement we didn't really articulate it as much, but it was anti-corporatist. It happened right after Citizens United, and it was about money and politics. Most of our issues came from that. And then the ways we organized ourselves was using anarchist tactics, libertarian tactics, and that's direct democracy. Everyone has a vote. And so we engaged civically in the democracy that we were being deprived of over here because of moneyed interests. That was the narrative of Occupy Wall Street. Anything that came out of these types of groups afterwards, maybe these just fizzled out, but this is real money. Someone leaked this to me because they were invited to join this. They're like, Shaz, this is what's going on behind the scenes. Like, we are all starting to smell shit. We're like, this shit is... But Max doesn't talk about that. He talks about the personal. They want you to deal with the micro and the people committing crimes in those tents privately. I'm really suspicious of people like that. You're not seeing the bigger picture of moneyed interest and huge fucking corporations, banks, getting with the FBI to disrupt us. Kicking us out of the park was only the first step. This is chess, it's not checkers. Now we have to dissolve the whole movement from the inside out. Some interesting shit. This story doesn't deserve to be spoken, or it's a great story to tell. And there's a lot of wisdom to be had here. This is just me reviewing it, talking fucking randomly during these hour-long videos. There's a lot more shit to dig into, but we have to hurry up. Architecture of breakthrough initiatives for sustainable and equitable change. Initiating action. Learn 5 leadership skills and competencies. Workshop 2, 3 days. Broad topics covered in the second 3-day workshop will be as follows. Deepen knowledge of the self. 3 powerful implementation strategies. Understanding constellations, structures, and functions. Alignment between groups and the results chain. Learn 5 additional leadership skills and competencies. Workshop number 3, 3 days. Broad topics covered in the third 3-day workshop will be as follows. Self and being a servant leader. Operational strategies for manifesting wisdom in action. Transformative meetings and events. The new narrative, documenting the difference. The new narrative, huh? Learn 5 additional leadership skills and competencies. Conceptual foundation. Occupy Manifest has been designed based on the Leadership Development Program, a well-renowned program that has already been implemented successfully in 30 countries, generating thousands of breakthrough initiatives that have impacted the lives of over 130 million people worldwide. Previous versions of this program has been focused on such issues as AIDS, HIV awareness, climate change, ending trafficking of children, and ending female genital mutilation. You notice there's no like macro picture. Larger, like no corporations and bureaucracies are governing the world through authoritarian means, and we just need people to take ownership and engagement in their civic lives. That's a one-sentence Shaz explanation of what's wrong with the world, which encompasses all of the symptoms. Behind all these things going on, there are profit motives keeping them going. The profit motives in anything to do with health, which ruin our fucking national health system and probably affect it globally as well. But corporations and their sociopathic drive, legal obligation to pursue profit as the highest motive is what creates all these symptoms. They never back out to that picture though, because they want us dealing with treating the symptoms, not the actual problem. Occupy Manifest will be led by one of the key individuals who created the Leadership Development Program. The Leadership Development Program is focused on incorporating cutting-edge best practices of leadership development based on top leadership training modalities in the world. That has to be on the corporate bingo shit. In the world, in order to foster change and enrich life. Enrich. That has to be a typo. I'm not even looking it up. What we have found particularly aligned with the values of the Occupy movement is that the Leadership Development Program is designed to bring about personal transformation as well as social transformation within an open system. All other leadership programs are developed within closed systems and make assumptions about the nature of success at an organizational level. Occupy Manifest will support you in allowing your own vision for the world to emerge from inner source, and it will assist you in carving out a clear direction for the implementation of your vision without prescribing specifically what should be done. This allows the full range of your natural wisdom and resourcefulness to flourish through your breakthrough initiative projects, honoring the essence of who you are and what you have to offer. See how they're pitching towards your ego. It's like, what is the revolution you wanted when you came here? Let's get that, because if this is really about co-opting leadership, they don't care what you do, as long as they develop a relationship with you and they have an influence on how you do it and make sure that you stay in your isolated islands of identities. And so they're like, and that's what I get when I read these fucking books by Democrats, by fucking, what is it, that angry fucking old Bernie. He's like, what motivates you? Find that one single interest, and that's how you engage in politics, off of single interest goals. Dude, they want us enraged, not engaged. We need to engage in civics. Civics and democracy is a complicated process by which we govern ourselves. If we don't engage in that fundamental challenge ahead of us, we will always be governed by others. It's just logic. If we don't wipe our own ass, we need our asses wiped by others. And we also end up with shitty ass. We need to, and then everything else comes from that. That process of engaging in civic discussion is what defines our democracy, and our democracy is what's under attack by the corporatists. But it's easy to lose that bigger perspective. I'm only remembering it, going through all this and remembering, because then when I get mad at people and why do I disagree with this, I have to articulate why I disagree with it, and then I remember the wisdom that I had lost. Joining Occupy Manifest. If you are interested in joining the first Occupy Manifest group, please complete the included participant info and project details. Submit it to info@occupymanifest.org no later than January 23rd, 2012. We are hoping to be able to start the first group in February, but this is pending the results of fundraising. So far, we have money for 15 participants, and we are doing everything to make it happen. So they are... If you do have money and can help out, it would be wonderful. Who the fuck wrote this shit? Yeah, so the fact that they're paying for it makes me really suspicious, too. Then this is really a co-optation of leadership. They're looking for the fucking... yeah, and that's what you had after... Notice what happened after Occupy Wall Street. What are the narratives now? That everything's a movement. Everything is the movement for fucking like this and that. Everything, because they realize they got that. They commodify, like, as the dominant structure is prone to do in our rabid capitalist consumerist economy. They've commodified protest movements, just like everything else. Commodified fucking feminism, commodified. What am I trying to commodify? I'm going to get caught up in... It's a pattern. The pattern's bigger than all of us. I'm just going to try to... We're going to try to create the alternative. Enough space for the alternative. But while we're in the midst of it, we're going to operate according to these patterns and laws and rules, because the dominant narrative is stronger than all of us. We can just... But through these breadcrumbs and through this honest introspection, we can try to keep our head above water and keep our sanity as we walk through insanity. That's the task ahead of us. Maintain sanity while you walk through insanity. But this is an insane world we live in. People don't believe what they say they believe. They don't say what... They don't even know what their values are, because people don't have this honest discussion with themselves, because they're incentivized to avoid themselves, or they're told to be ashamed of themselves. Like my mom growing up, ashamed of her own thoughts, her own feelings, for her own benefit. It kept her safe in this little Christian household. There's a lot of fucking violence and shitty craziness that happens in Mexico, but it's not cultural. It's not Mexico's fault either. It's just a poor country has less. Yeah, I don't want to get into it. But anyways, we are raising the funds to support people in Occupy to go through the entire program. It costs approximately $3,500 for each individual to complete the entire program. However, we do ask that you make a financial commitment to the program as well. For each of the 3 workshops, the cost to you will be $150. This will secure your spot in the program, and you will receive books for the entire program, transportation, housing, meals, and the program itself. If this amount presents a hardship for you, please contact us. We look forward to experiencing, working, and learning with you in the coming months. Warmly, Kobe and Michael. Who the fuck are Kobe and Michael? I need to interview them, and I need to interview people who've gone through this. And then maybe the fucking Black Lives Matter didn't come out of this, but this or something like it. I know people, I've seen this dude, fucking Apollo, working for Black Lives Matter in fucking New York when I was doing real estate. And I was like, that dude was heavily involved in Occupy Wall Street, Occupy Office. Let me look him up. Apollo. Maybe I could grab a picture of him. So I got my leads. It's like Shaz isn't... It's like, if this was like a detective story, I'm at the beginning with like fucking... That's what I was thinking about being a detective earlier this year. I was like, you know what? Maybe that's my calling. I like figuring shit out. No, he stayed out. Here he is. Booyah. Marco Polo. I think this guy is a good fucking connector between Occupy Wall Street and Black Lives Matters. So if I talk to that guy, I could probably get a lead on where to go and if my intuition's correct. Where's another picture? Here's another picture. God bless the internet, right? That dude worked for both Black Lives Matter and Occupy Wall Street, I'm pretty sure. Didn't really talk to him. I just saw him in town in New York at an event for Black Lives Matter. I was like, oh shit, they got that guy. And that's when I started thinking. And then also Black Lives Matter didn't suffer a lot of the stuff in Occupy Wall Street did, because they did the corporation from the beginning, the hierarchy from the beginning. So it was a job and an organized protest movement top down from the beginning. It's like when I was, world can't wait for George Bush. None of us fucking really liked George Bush Jr. since he was elected. So I started to get involved in fucking, especially with like the protest of the war before they invaded. Look at, I'm all fuzzy. Am I going to stay fuzzy? And Deborah Sweet, I think it is, fucking Deborah Sweeney, the lady who directed World Can't Wait. It's like that leadership never rolled over. It was always just one person top down in charge, and that's always very suspicious. To, you don't even have to read fucking anarchism or Zen if those are your values. Just no one's above me. I'm not better than anyone, but no one's better than me. And that's the basics for direct democracy. And, all right, we got 49. We got 11 more minutes to run through this. Guidelines for filling out information, participant information, project details. We're going to have to skim this. Instructions for submitting your information, applicant background, experience, involvement, and hopes, accommodations, contributions, financial information. Section 1 of this participant information is designed both to give us information about you and to give you an opportunity to engage in a process with yourself. Some people have expressed excitement about the questions and saw them as the beginning of the program and an opportunity for clarity and growth. Others have expressed frustration at the level of detail. It has taken people between 1 to 10 hours to complete, depending on how much they want to explore the various questions. This is your choice. We're not expecting any more than a few lines for narrative questions. Look what they're asking. Here's money, blah, blah, blah. We aim to have the most diversity in this program that we can because we trust it will increase our capacity as a network to reach more people. So not ideas already, it's identities. Toward the end, it will be helpful to hear from your elements you are willing to share your background that might help us be aware of the diversity within the group. Below are some suggestions. Geographical place of birth, geographical home, primary language, gender, sexual orientation, religion, blah, 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 age. Relation to OWS. What are some ways OWS has most affected your life? What are 1 to 2 areas of OWS practice that you experience most ease with? What are 1 to 2 areas of OWS practice that you experience most challenge with? Do you have any areas of doubt, questioning, hesitancy, concern, dislike, or uncertainty about OWS? If yes, what are those areas and how are you working with your doubts, dislikes, or uncertainties? This is where you start to think, man, if I was like a destabilizing force attacking Occupy Wall Street, this would be giving me some really good information. Have you been involved and engaged with, how have you been involved and engaged with OWS? What are your areas of engagement? What area of your engagement has made you feel most connected to yourself and proud of what you've done? Also, this was like a secret circulation. This wasn't openly, they went to a General Assembly and said, we have this idea. They were handpicking people and trying to recruit them through this. And one of those people they picked gave this to me and said, this shit does not seem right, Shaz. And I was like, thank you. Fucking, for all my enemies, I made some friends. How long have you been integrating social activism into your life? What organizer training have you participated in? There's not many people who I've talked to in Occupy Wall Street. I haven't talked to many people since then who knew about this, though. I wonder how many people knew about this. Your Breakthrough Initiative project. We would like you to tell us about the project you would like to take on during the program. However, your answer here is not your final commitment to this particular project. During the first workshop, there'll be time to reflect on your project and make changes to it. By the end of the first workshop, you will commit to a specific project that you will work on throughout the course of the program. Through considering the Declaration of Occupation, we have, so these guys, they all like, by analyzing your movement, we've determined, but they didn't do it in an open, transparent process, which is a part of our values. We've identified, this is the definition of co-optation. We've identified 5 broad categories that is Occupy is seeking to address. We encourage you to select a project within one of these categories, but you have something else that you feel strongly about. Please do not feel limited on this list. Look at this. Environmental regeneration, economic reform, media, entertainment, and information, human rights, sustainable communities. They got us all on the fucking micro shit. They won't talk about you want to know who these people are? Well, who did they leave out? money and politics. So who do these people work for? Money and politics. This is fucking obvious to be comical. Like, we came out 2010 Citizens United. Then we had a recession. Barack Obama fundraised fucking, he got the more money from Wall Street and financiers than anyone else. He was appointing fucking Goldman Sachs guys to his fucking economic committee who then bailed out the banks. All of these are symptoms of money in politics. Environmental regeneration, because money in politics is causing us to destroy our environment. Economic reform, money in politics. Media entertainment consolidation, because of money in politics. Fucking taking off our restrictions for media consolidation. Or for, like, what is it, the fair time on TV shows where you have to, if you present one side, you have to present equal time for the other side. Human rights, well, profit motive is direct contradiction to human rights. And sustainable communities. We have no more civic centers. We have strip malls. Money in politics. We don't have town squares. We don't have society built for people and communities. We have society built for workers, and that's what it is, consumption. And the American dream of being able to afford a single car garage and a chicken in a pot and all that shit was based off of consumerism. Consumerism replaced civics in American culture, and America's greatest export around the world, admittedly, is our culture. All of this goes back to money and corporations and our values of our society. So transparently, it's interesting. In what area system do you want to create positive, sustainable change? They're trying to, yeah, that's what they're trying to fucking get us granular, to get us to step away from the bigger picture. This is the divide and conquer strategy. This is the balkanization of a movement. And after Occupy Wall Street, the biggest movements since then have been Black Lives Matter around black identities, and Me Too around female identities, which also coincides with political power brokers who would love to, because that's what Obama's supposed to own, the blacks. That's what Kanye West is trying to stand up against. Not everything fucking he says is crazy. Like, you are expected to act a certain way because he owns that constituency. And then now females, we're supposed to line up with fucking Hillary Clinton. But luckily enough of them are independent minded. Or no, that's what I think Norm Macdonald said that. American people hated Hillary Clinton so much that they voted for someone they hated more, just to show her. It was definitely a hate fuck. That Donald Trump, in his naivety and idiocy, thinks is an actual relationship. No, I had one of those. I had sex with a girl just because I didn't like another girl. Well, it's not that I didn't like this other girl. That's like a real estate story. We'll talk about that during real estate times. But she like swore something was going on between me and this girl. And so after we stopped messing with each other, me and that girl who swore that she was so jealous about something stupid, I hooked up with the other girls just to be like, well, she always thought we were, so you might as well. But the other girl was sweet. And then she tells me stories about how she's not appreciated, and then you feel like an asshole, and then you outgrow those behaviors, hopefully. Anytime you share yourself with someone, try to honor it and respect it, or else the desensitization causes a lot of blind spots in your life. You don't want to lose your sensitivity, not sexually, not in your communication with others. What is it they say? Something like acting cool is like acting like you don't give a shit, but being cool is actually caring. Something like that. Like, acting cool is acting like you don't give a shit, but being cool is actually giving a shit. But if you really give a shit, then you're going to be efficient. You're not going to project. You're going to do what the person and the situation requires of you. What are the principles you will apply to your project? What do you stand for? What are your key partners in your project? What partnerships do you want to build and manifest? What results do you want to produce in your project 6 months to a year out? Why are you applying to OM? Include in your answer how you imagine you might be able to use what you gain from this year in the future. To the best of your ability at this moment in time, are you able to make the following commitments regarding by OM? Will you participate fully? Will you be able to set aside 3 to 6 hours a week? Will you be able to share OM skills with others for a period of 1 year following the end of the program? So they were really getting people for multiple years in this. Are you comfortable making your OM offerings accessible to others? Do you have any specific expectations about what you would like to learn. Is there anything else you would like us to know? Do you have any questions at this time? Yeah, this is just like, I saw this when I first saw it too. When I first read this, I was like, holy shit, they're just trying to basically create a little cadre of like inner elites within the movement to branch out. Well, the huge red flags are they claim that they analyzed our movement and picked out our values, but didn't identify the values which are the most democratic, the most I said democratic, and when I'm reading anarchist theory, they didn't really like governments or democracies. But the way that you organize, the way that you give everyone a vote in our general assemblies, that direct democratic push, that's the less utopian, more practical anarchism, is just devolve authority down to its only most basic required structures. So basically, get rid of as much bureaucracy as you can. I think that's like practical anarchism. And that's not, this is all bureaucracy. This is all, they want you to take your idea, and it's all feeding the ego and the individual. That's what the consensus process, you're supposed to leave the ego at the door. But this basically is saying, no, your idea is the best. And we're going to show you how your idea is going to save the world. Just plug it into our system, and we're going to turn you into a hero. This is just, and then who are these people, and are they getting paid from the outside? What are their motives? We're not really clear. We're just supposed to trust them because they quoted Albert Einstein at the beginning of their fucking document. Why did they do it in secret? Why are they targeting these people in our movement? One of whom leaked this to me. It was shady all around. To help you choose the type of accommodations you like, please see the section on accommodations in the program description. Please choose for each of the 3 retreats your rooming options. Please rank them. First choice, blah, blah, blah. Camping, bedrolls, shared, double or single. You guys aren't even fucking paying for people's hotel rooms. Camping? See, this also didn't impress me. It's like, you're sending people to California? Yeah, I've been there, done that. As we have shared, blah, 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 blah. How much are you thinking of contributing for your tuition? $150 to $300 per retreat. That's another thing. It's like, I don't have fucking $300 for each of these retreats. I would have gone to something like this, try to check it out from the inside. Maybe it would have corrupted me. I really want to talk to someone who went through this. Maybe they just flamed out. Maybe this was just an idea and they didn't fucking recruit anyone. Can you cover? But this makes for a good story. It's like, wow, this is intrigue. What the fuck's going on? Who is this? This story needs to be told. The whole Occupy story, from how it began, it's an international story. International movements around the world. How often does it happen in the world that multiple countries have? That only happened at the end of the, holy shit, that happened at the end of the Industrial Revolution. Was the response to the Industrial Revolution. That's what Occupy Wall Street was. The Arab protest and all that shit, that was a response to the fucking global world order that's being formed, that is formed right now. The global response, and we just don't have an ideology right now. We don't have a unified fucking language with which to express our values. But like, you gotta call it what it is. Occupy Wall Street tapped into a global protest movement at the time. Multiple countries, all fucking in solidarity with each other, but not quite coordinated with each other, but inspired by each other. The Spain, Ocupados, and then you had London, and all of that was inspired by the Arab Spring. And it's all under the same fucking global management system. There's probably central banks in all of these countries that had occupations. So it's a response to the global world order. And that history is not being told. That blows my mind. It's like I got a golden ticket. I got a fucking story that I feel is like a great story to fucking tell. And I have great first-hand experience and source material for it. Should be worth a lot of money, I would think. I would think it's worth a lot of money. We request contribution of $450 to $900 for the full program. Blah, blah, blah. Check money, cash order. Contributing time, volunteering, blah, blah, blah. Feedback, 1717. Alright, so we did that. And then we got, so who is it? Kobe and Michael. We have no last names, really? Like, we got that leadership conference thingy. They said it was inspired by a leadership program, so I could look that up, I guess. We will find Kobe and Michael. We will find, because that's what it is. This life, no matter how much, usually people have a cover for a little bit, but unless you're like really deep agent your whole life and deep cover, you do shit like this and then you do other stuff. That's what I could find that girl who made that Egypt proposal. I just have to look her up. I don't care enough. But her name, she's in my emails. She's the one who proposed that we go to Egypt, and she headed that group of people, and Max was in that group. I don't know if he was going to go to Egypt, but he was definitely helping. Max had his hand in most of the organizational stuff going on. And when he says he was working 15, 18 hours a day, I joke around, but I believe it. Like, the guy had a hand in most of the organizational stuff in Occupy Wall Street. And since I kind of like the guy, and I think that maybe those are just blind spots in where we disagree, or places where we can both grow more, he's a guy I would rather talk to than most of those other people. But yeah, the girl who organized that proposal, I looked up her resume, and now she's fucking something fancy. So like, if she was a malicious actor, she was hired, she was in, she's out, and now she has her own brand and her own PR thing, or whatever. One of those people. I'm a social influencer, and I'm able to get a brand out among the people, among various medias, and she's worked in multiple different countries. She reeks of a State Department person, but like an unofficial one, who's able to go in on the civilian side. But it's interesting, she was huge in our movement, at least as far as that Egyptian delegation goes. And she doesn't list Occupy Wall Street on her resume. Maybe she's ashamed of us. All right, so the next one is Occupy Kiss, anarchist blog. Back when Shaz felt that it was still a good idea to beg people for money. I never begged on the street, but Kickstarter is like, what are you doing? It's like, even now when I'm going to launch this publishing company, I'm going to try to get money the normal, rational way, sell shit. But this is where I'm trying to beg for it. 0 pledges, finding unsuccessful. That brand, I don't know. Let me read this. Came to New York in the fall of 2011 to sell a nonfiction book proposal entitled The Complete American's Guide to Revolution. I had a Kickstarter campaign, website, professional query to be pitched. But when I found the real thing taking place in the form of Occupy Wall Street, I ditched my book proposal and jumped right in. All right. This is just a lot of reading. I could read all this. Oh, the Greeks claim that their oracle at Delphi had 2 important sayings: know thyself and nothing to excess. Occupy Wall Street has been successful at starting a discussion about inequality in our society. But have we been successful at the first maxim? Are we working as hard to know and eventually change ourselves? Anyways, I try to walk myself towards... I plan on dedicating this work to 3 women who inspired me. Riverbend, the pseudonym name of a young Iraqi blogger, a girl whose personal writings impressed upon me the human tragedy of our voluntary wars of aggression. Lynn Stewart, a Brooklyn-born attorney convicted of providing material support to terrorists in 2005. Originally sentenced to 28 months, Lynn was resentenced to 10 years, possibly a life sentence, in light of her recent cancer diagnosis. Guillermina Gonzalez, that's my mom. Obviously, I'm still pissed off at my pops because I put her last name there. I don't know if they're on the skids or not. They were on in and out for a little bit. No, they were together when they got evicted because that's all they had was each other. They talk about how that was good for their marriage to have to rely on each other. And now, so Occupy Kiss, I don't have enough time. I have 2 more minutes and I don't want to do another hour. We've done 18 hours about Occupy Wall Street. But we're going to spend the last minute. Drew Hornby, he had his fingers all over the technological aspect of Occupy Wall Street. And he was running most of the meetings I saw him in. So he was definitely a large personality. Not sure what his motives are, what he did before Occupy Wall Street, and what he did afterwards. So I can't vouch for the guy. But he knew me. He should remember me. Most people who interacted with me on a regular basis should remember me. So I asked him, I was like, Drew, the website's down. I eventually planned on writing a book about Occupy Wall Street. I really wanted to take that website of all the communications and start creating the social network of, all right, so these people know these people. It was the roadmap. It was our cast of our organizational structure. Like if you put molten fucking aluminum into an anthill and then you let it dry and then pull it out, you have a cast of the anthill. That website showed all the dialogue since the beginning of Occupy Wall Street. So it would have shown you how the groups all formed, how the hierarchies formed, who navigated the positions to become and to get positions of authority and power. I'm on there too. So I asked this girl. he told me, well, she knows. And that's where the conversation ended. It would be nice to have access for the public record. Please help me retrieve this data if possible. Might have sent some nasty emails afterwards. I don't remember. I think I threatened someone with a lawsuit. But all of this stuff is just waiting for Shazzy Detective to get back on the case. But we have more important stuff to do. We will get back to Occupy Wall Street when we can.